Hey everybody, Don Georgievich here with Job Interview Tools. Today I have a very special training program for you. It's called Navigating COVID-19, a Blueprint for Success. I was recently asked by the University of California in San Diego to create a special training program just for their graduating class this spring, so that when they hit the job market, they hit it hard, they hit it with full force and full intensity, and be some of the first graduates to grab those jobs. This is some very powerful stuff. Now, throughout the workshop, I'll chime in a couple of times just to see how you're doing and give you some special offers on some of my very best training programs. So to get started, grab something to write with and dive in with me. Enjoy.
Hey there, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Jonah. I'm the president of UES, and I want to welcome you all to the UES 2020 interview workshop. Our fantastic presenter today is Don Georgievich, a once hustling job seeker turned YouTuber and author that is here to bring all of you some of the information he's gotten going through the job seeking process. So today he's going to talk about some ways to interview during the crazy situation that we find ourselves in currently. I know I definitely could get something out of this, and I hope you all do as well.
Hey, thanks a lot for that wonderful introduction, Jonah. What I put together is something that I've really never done before. And I've taken kind of the best of a lot of the different areas of job searching and interviewing and resume writing, all those different pieces, and I've kind of just jammed them all together. And hopefully I can get through this in about 45 minutes. What I want this to be is just like a conversation between you and me. Just imagine both of us are, sitting in a Starbucks or just sitting across from each other, and we're just talking. And what I want to do is just put some ideas into your head. I don't want to tell you what to do, but I want to lead you down a path of discovery. What I want to talk about today is putting together a plan for your job search, because COVID has made the job market a lot more difficult than it used to be. And I've read some recent statistics that 42% of people who were laid off due to COVID, they're not going to return to work, which means their jobs are eliminated. Businesses are eliminated. This really focuses on smaller businesses. Jobs have just evaporated. So without all these jobs, you still have the people there. So you have a lot of people who are going to be looking for jobs of which there aren't as many of those jobs. So that means there's going to be a lot of competition for you. And that's going to make it tougher for undergrads coming out, because you don't have all of the experience that a lot of other job seekers do. But I'm going to show you how to navigate all that. And again, COVID has reduced a lot of the job opportunities, because a lot of companies are laying off, airlines are laying off, banks are laying off. So they're not hiring as much as they used to. And the entry-level jobs, which is what a lot of undergrads are targeting when they graduate, those jobs, I don't believe they're going to be as many, because when you're entry-level, that means you go into a company and they spend maybe 3 months, 6 months training you for a position. Well, office buildings and staff are reduced. If you've been to any office buildings anywhere, you can see that they probably only have 30% of their staff there. So without all the staff, they're not able to train everybody. So this affects you. But the biggest thing that COVID has really done is it kind of strips away authenticity in interviewing. And I'm going to get more into that about what I mean. But when you are sitting across from somebody and you're having a conversation with them, you can see them, you can feel them, you can hear them, and there's a whole lot of body language that goes on, and you can really get to know a person. But when you're staring at a little camera trying to interview with somebody 100 miles away, all of that genuine authenticity in the interview, all that body language, all that feeling kind of gets erased. So that's going to make it harder for you, but I'm going to show you how to overcome that. So for most of you guys, job searching is just going to be more challenging than it used to be. But since a lot of you guys probably haven't really hit the job market before, you don't really have a point of reference. So it's just going to be a little bit harder going at it. But there is a way that you can make it easier. for yourselves. If you create a campaign, a job search campaign that is going to add a lot of structure to your job search, and it's going to give you a target of something to aim for instead of just mindlessly wandering through all the available jobs. So a campaign is, it's simple. It's a course of action to achieve a goal. And that's what I want to sell you on today, is to creating your own job search campaign. And I want to show you how to do that. And there's 4 simple phases to creating a job search campaign. The first one is you need to get clear on what it is, what you want, what you're looking for, what you're willing to do. Then you need to create a targeted resume, which is really nothing, it's like a marketing brochure for yourself. And then you need to hunt for jobs like a sniper. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean by that and how to do that. And then after you get through phase 1, 2, and 3, the next thing you're going to do is be interviewing for jobs. And I'm going to teach you how to do that and how to focus on the jobs that are going to be the most impactful and the ones that you're most passionate about. So first thing is getting clear is really a series of questions that you need to ask of yourself. And you need to ask yourself, what is your goal? What do you want to be doing? Where do you want to be? Now, I know some of these questions, they might overlap with one another and your answer might be the same, but I wanted to break them up into individual questions to help you get extra clear on it. You need to know what you actually want in a job search. I'm assuming that you're going to graduate, and I'm assuming that you're going to want to be employed. So what does that look like? What does that employment look like? Where do you want to be in 5 or 10 years? I mean, granted, the first jobs you get are most likely going to be entry level, but maybe you have visions, I'm sure you do, of visions of doing something more. And what is that? What does that look like? And how long is it going to take you to get there? And, what do you want to be doing? What specifically do you want to be doing? And, why do you want, or who do you want to be doing that for? Like, do you want to work for Amazon? Do you work for Google? Do you want to work for Facebook? Do you want to work for the university? These answers are going to help you get crystal clear and create a target for yourself. And I strongly encourage you not to begin your job search until you can answer these questions, at least a couple of them, just to start the conversation with yourself, because that's really what this is. This is a conversation with yourself. The second part of this is why. You need to know why you want to do this. Is it someone else's goal? Is it your goal? Is it something your parents wanted you to do? Your parents want you to be a doctor or whatever? Why is this your goal? And why do you want to be in, here is, relative in your career. Here it could be a geographic location, it could be a company, it could be a place, it could be anything. And why do you want to be doing what you do? Why is it important to you? Was it, did you have a moment in high school or when you were a little kid that, you decided, hey, I want to grow up and, I want to be a, financial advisor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. Where was that moment in your life that you decided, this is what I want to do and this is why I want to do it? And then the fourth part in getting clear is, why do you want to work? A lot of people, this is more specific, like if you want to work for a particular company. There's a lot of people who graduate, they're like, I want to work for Google. My heart and passion is in Google. So I just threw Charles Schwab in there because that's a financial institution. But you can replace Charles Schwab with whatever company it is that you want to be a part of. Some people want to be a part of Amazon because they're growing like wildfire, and they're doing all kinds of different things in different directions, and they're just kind of taking over the world. So why do you want to work for the place that you want to work? The next question I have for you, and you might have for me, is what if you don't know what you want? And that is a very fair question, and I have to figure that's on the minds of a lot of people because How are you supposed to know what you want? I mean, you spent the last 4 years in college, you've been studying, and maybe you know what you want, and maybe you don't. But, and that's okay if you don't. But as long as you start having the conversation with yourself to know that those questions are part of getting clear. So I'm going to give you some ways that you can find out what you might want without actually getting a job and without actually getting into the job market. I don't know if you've ever heard of informational interviews, but those are interviews that you can have with somebody who is already doing what you want to be doing. Now you have to go out and find these people. But I mean, if you wanted to be a financial analyst, you might consider, calling up Charles Schwab and saying, "Hey, are there any financial analysts over there that maybe I could sit down and talk to for an hour, just to find out what they do?" And actually, your university might even be able to help you with these as well. And that way, you can meet with people who are doing what you want to be doing, or you think you want to be doing. I mean, just for example, my son, he's an undergrad right now. He's a senior at Kent State in Kent, Ohio, and he wanted to be an accountant. And after he did a little bit of accounting and he talked to some accountants, he's like, "You know what? I don't think I want to be an accountant anymore. I think I want to be in finance." And so he moved. So he talked to people. He found out more about what he was studying that he thought he liked, but after talking to some people, it wasn't what he wanted to be doing. So that's one thing you can do, is informational interviews. Another thing you can do is just read job postings. Go out and just search for positions that you think you want and just read over those descriptions and get a feeling for if you think that's stuff that you want to be doing. Now, maybe there's a particular place that you want to work at. Maybe you want to work at Facebook, Google, Amazon, whatever. Those are just the big names that are coming off the top of my head. But there's a site called Glassdoor.com, and they offer employee reviews of the company. So if there's a particular place that you want to work at, you might want to go to Glassdoor.com and punch them in and just see what it's like. There'll be honest and open employee reviews on that site, so you can get some feedback as to what that culture is like. You might find out that, this is a horrible place to work. Or you might find out that it's a wonderful place to work and grow, and they really take care of the people, and that attracts you all the more. So Glassdoor is a great place to go to find out about potential culture fit. Now, biggest thing with any job search campaign and hitting the job market is you need to get used to rejection. That your interviews, you're going to have good ones, you're going to have bad ones, you're going to feel awful, you're going to feel good. It's just going to be all over the place. You're going to get really close. You're going to get down to the final wire, and there'll be you and somebody else between who gets the job, and it won't be you, and it's going to hurt. But prepare for that. Just know that stuff is coming, and it's going to be good and bad, but don't take it personally. And what I really encourage you to do is, after every interview that you go on, no matter how bad you are, no matter how much you suck, no matter how many mistakes you made, pat yourself on the back and say, "You know what? I did a good job. I could have done better, but I did a good job, and I'm going to do better next time." And you want to take care of yourself in this way. Otherwise, if you beat yourself up after every interview, it's just going to hurt your self-esteem. And it's just going to make it even harder for you to interview the next time. But if you congratulate yourself and say, "Hey, we did a great job, we're going to do better next time," it's going to make you better next time. And that's how you win in job interviews, is through repetition. You might have to go on 10 interviews before you get a job. I don't know. Maybe you get lucky. Maybe you get it after 1 or 2. It just depends. But there's always ups and downs with the job market and in interviewing. And just don't take it personally, even though it may feel that way.
Hey, it's Don. I wanted to check in with you again just to see how you're doing and hope that you're finding lots of valuable things to write down, and I hope you have pages and pages of notes. I wanted to take just a quick second to introduce you to the Resume Masterpiece. Throughout this presentation, one of the things that I've talked about is the most important tool a job seeker can have, and that is a resume. The resume is going to open the door for you into an employer. It's going to be that document that gets you the job interview. If you have a great resume, you can expect to get lots of calls. If you have a weak resume, there's something wrong with it, or it doesn't resonate with employers, you can expect it to probably get thrown in the trash and you'll never hear from the employer. So that's why I created the Resume Masterpiece. This is going to walk you through step by step how to create the absolute best resume. It's going to give you sample resumes. There's over 100 sample resumes from 20 different industries included in this guide. So head on over to jobinterviewtools.com/resume and read about the Resume Masterpiece. See if you think it's for you. Give it a try, and I guarantee it is going to change your whole job search. And well, you probably won't be job searching for long because it's going to help you get that job interview that is going to be the job for you. So let's get back to the presentation.
So that was phase one. Phase two, you need to get a resume that is very targeted towards the job that you want. And there's an easy way to do that, because your resume, like I said earlier, it's a marketing brochure. You're waving that thing around, and it's to lure potential employers in to get excited about you and what you can do. So I would encourage you to get the job description that you want to apply to, print it off. I really recommend printing it off and reading it over very carefully. I like to get a couple of different highlighters and highlight all the key areas that I think are really important to them. And then I try to draw some lines over to my resume to just see if what they're looking for is on my resume. If it's not, then I'll add it. Now I won't add misinformation or lie or anything like that, but you want to add as much about yourself and what you're capable of that's related to the job description, because that's a blueprint for getting the job. You want to get really intimate with that job description. There's just so much information in it. Next thing you do with your resume is read the corporate mission and vision statements on their website. And all you have to really do is just Google, mission statement for Charles Schwab or Amazon or whatever, and you'll get it. This will give you some insight into what kind of direction they have, what kind of culture that they have, and that'll give you a feeling for what they're like. Try to give your resume and your cover letter that type of feeling, because employers are hiring on culture fit and personality more than they are anything else. Next thing with your targeted resume is you should have at least 2 variations of your resume. Have one focused towards, maybe one specific niche area, and then one towards a different area. This gives you the flexibility to target maybe 2 different occupations or areas of employment, within the same vertical that you're in, and it'll also just kind of force you and stretch you to think about taking on 2 different roles, so to speak. I used to have 3 different resumes. I used to have one that says I could do sales, I had another one that says I could do teaching, and I had another one that says I can do sales engineering. And all 3 were related. They were all very technical, but I had 3 different ones because I might be targeting a teaching engineering position, or I might be doing a sales engineer, or whatever. So multiple versions are your friend. So what I want to do here is show you what I thought was a really good example of an undergrad resume. This is actually a real resume from a client of mine. He came to me because he had an interview with a company and he wanted to get a little bit of coaching. So I asked him, because he gave me his resume, and I asked him, I says, hey, do you mind if I show this? I'm doing a webinar with college in San Diego, do you mind if I show them your resume? I'll change your name, but I says I really like the way your resume is laid out. So what I want to do is just briefly walk you through his resume. He is fresh out of the Ohio State University. He's actually still there. And this is his heading. He's got his name, address. He has his LinkedIn profile in his header, which I like. This is a nice way to give employers another view of your resume, or things that you've done. A LinkedIn resume is a much more scaled down version than a full-blown resume, but it just shows that you're professional and you're hooked in. First thing he has on here is an objective statement. He's seeking an industrial sales engineering position. An objective statement is so important because it instantly communicates to an employer, what you're looking for. And he's got his education here. He puts his education first because he's a fresh undergrad, and that's what he's leading with. And then he goes into his work experience. He's got Davis Incorporated. I actually think that's his father's business, but he also has 3 internships here. He's got one at Howmet Aerospace, and it just shows he worked May to August, May to August, May to August, and all 3 of these. And he's got detail for every one of these. And because he is looking for a sales engineering position, he talks about, that he did some sales stuff in his internships. Now, the interesting thing, though, is his degree is in industrial systems engineering. So you might wonder, why does somebody in system engineering want to be a sales engineer? That's just what he wants to do. And so that's why he is very clearly communicating that with an objective statement. And he has a very simple 1-page resume that just kind of talks about the stuff that he's done. He talks about some of his leadership activities at college, Forbes Under 30 Scholar, Ohio State Formula, head of fabrication, and then he's got some skills. So this is a very simple resume, but for an undergrad, I am just blown away. I think it's fabulous because I don't even see regular people who've been working 10 or 20 years have a resume that's so well put together. So just wanted to show that there, just so you can see what that looks like. Moving on here, phase 3, hunting for jobs like a sniper. Now I mentioned that before, and I want to tell you what I mean by that. Back from phase 1, you need to hunt for jobs like a sniper. You need to know exactly what you want. You need to know what the jobs you're looking for. And if you don't, that means you're kind of just, you're just dabbling out there. If you don't know what you're looking for, you're just thinking, well, maybe I'll try this, maybe I'll try that. But you really should be so tightly focused on the jobs that you want that you're rejecting. You should be rejecting more jobs than you're applying to. And a lot of people, they'll apply to jobs that they're only partially qualified for, and then they never hear anything back. And so they keep applying to jobs that they're not really qualified for, and employers they just ignore them. And what this really does is it kind of just makes you feel bad and useless that, well, I'm sending out resumes and nobody's interested, nobody's getting back to me, I must be all washed up. Well, that's just the wrong thought to have. You want to know exactly what you're looking for so you can target those very specifically, and it's just as important to know what you don't want. When you're looking at a job, it should meet 80 to 90% of your requirements. If it doesn't, if it's only meeting 50, 60%, skip it. Or if you only meet 50, 60% of the requirements, don't waste your time on it. Move on and aim for jobs that you know that you can get. Now, minimize the number of jobs you apply for. If you focus on hunting for jobs, some people do this, they go out and they apply to 50 or 100, 500 jobs. I had one guy, he told me he applied for over 1,500 jobs in the last year and a half, and he didn't get one single call. And I'm like, why? Why did you wait a year and a half after 1,500 resumes to decide something wasn't working? You should know that right away. And that's, the internet and job sites just make applying so easy that you just, select, 50 employers and hit apply. That doesn't work. What I want you to do, and what I think works best, especially in these tougher times, is you need to be very specific with what you want. Pick out 10 jobs that you want to apply for and just pour your heart into those. Write a special cover letter, write a special resume, make it match the job description. So when they look at your resume, they can see that it correlates over to their job description. And it's going to make you more of a match, and it's going to increase the opportunity for a call. Instead of just, blasting out 500 resumes. It's just a very poor strategy. So COVID, good old COVID. They've just eliminated so many jobs. So here's how to search for jobs. I like to start with some of the big job sites, Career Builder, Indeed, and get your resume up on those job boards and build a profile, because that's where a lot of employers will look. They won't always post the job on the job board. And actually, all the jobs that I ever had came from a recruiter just finding my resume on the job boards. I wasn't actually applying to them, because most of the jobs, they're not even posted, because it costs an employer $600 to $1,000 just to post a job. But they get access to search the whole database of resumes on Career Builder or Indeed or whatever. So if you have a resume profile out there that's targeted towards a very specific type of work, they might find you, and then they'll call you directly. Also, look for niche job boards. So if you're into tech, Dice.com, they specialize in those high-tech jobs. The Ladder specializes in management jobs. So for your industry, search out, find very specific niche websites or job boards and work those. But you want to start broad and work your way in. And another place to look for jobs is on employer websites. If there's a certain employer you want to be, go to their website, look at the jobs that they have, and apply directly. Now, I said about the unadvertised jobs, and you may have heard this before, that most jobs are unadvertised, and it's true. Most jobs are, because to post jobs, every time an employer posts jobs, they get hundreds of replies, and 95% of them are just garbage. So a lot of jobs are unadvertised, and the ways you can find those are with networking. And networking is easy to say, but it's harder to do. It means you got to know people. But it works. I'll tell you, my wife is a perfect example of this. She went to Akron University, and her professor recommended her for an accounting job at the university. And then when she was in there, that professor recommended her for a job at NASA. When she went to NASA, a friend there recommended her for a job at EDS. And I don't think she ever applied for a job in her life, except when she was in college and stuff, and working in bars or whatever. But she never applied for a professional job in her life. It was all through networking, and she would probably tell you she's one of the least connected people on the planet.
Hey, it's Don. I wanted to check in with you one last time to see how you're doing. I hope you're taking lots of notes. I hope you're learning a lot of new things. And maybe there's some things in here that you already knew, but maybe you forgot about them. So this is a great way to revisit some of those basics, because basics are one of the most important things. A lot of people, they're looking for all these advanced strategies and how to do things that they don't already know how to do. Focus on the basics. The simplest things are the best, the most important, and that are going to help you go farther in the interview process. And that's why I created the Complete Interview Answer Guide. This guide is going to walk you through how to answer some of the most difficult and yet common interview questions. And one of the biggest comments that I get about this guide is, Don, I've been looking for a job for 6 months and no one has hired me. And I wish I had your book 6 months ago, because as soon as I got it, it made all the difference, and I had 2 job offers before I know what happened. So I'm not saying that that's going to happen for you, but I am going to say that I can pretty much, with absolute certainty, that if you read everything in this book and you apply this and you go on 10 job interviews, 1 or 2 of those is going to offer you the job. I guarantee it. And if not, I'll give you your money back. I will give you your money back if you go on 10 job interviews and you don't get any of those. Is that a deal? Is that worth, what is this, $50? $50 for a job? I think so. Now, this book comes in 3 different formats. You can get the PDF version for $47. I also have an audio and video version if you like to learn by watching and listening. And I also have the hard copy book right here, and I'll ship this out to you if you want. If you get the hard copy, it also includes the PDF ebook, the videos, and the audios. So that's all I have for you. Let's get back to the presentation. Bye now.
So networking does work. You talk to friends, you talk to family, you talk to neighbors. I have my own son talking to the neighbor down the street because he's a finance manager. I'm like, hey, go talk to Mr. Wargo. He's in finance. He may not hire you, but he may know of some people who know of some people. And that's how you get connected. And LinkedIn will help you with getting connected and finding other people in your field. I could go on probably for an hour on LinkedIn, but I don't have time to do that. But make sure you have a LinkedIn profile and you get connected and you use it to reach out to people in your field. Another place you can find unadvertised jobs are your professors. Talk to your professors. They might know somebody who knows somebody who can get you in. And one of my friends was, I was always bad at networking, but making friends with a recruiter. Find a recruiter who is looking to, a lot of companies they'll hire recruiting companies to go out and find people for them. So you make friends with a recruiter. And the cool thing about them is they want to get you a job, because if they do, they get $30,000. So you make friends, and you can call them and email them as much as you want. They want to hear from you. They'll put you in interviews. So find a recruiter, make a friend. So moving on here. Now, like I said, applying for jobs, just put your effort into 10 jobs a week. I mean, interviewing for just a job search campaign, you could literally spend 40, 50 hours a week on it. Just going through the job boards every day, finding the jobs, and putting it. I'll tell you, it takes time to apply to 10 jobs. It takes a lot of effort. If you do it right, if you focus and you write a customized cover letter, you make some tweaks to your resume, it takes time and effort. And the thing is, most people don't do that because they're just dabbling. They're just hoping. They're just fishing. But you're hunting like a sniper, and you know exactly what you want, and you're targeting that. And that's how you do it. You can't, realistically, you can't apply to 50 jobs a week. Just doing 10 is going to take a lot of time and effort. And you want to create a plan for every job that you apply to. And you could do this as simply as, if you want to create a follow-up plan, is what I mean to say. So every cover letter and resume that you send out and you apply to, have a little spreadsheet that says, okay, we sent this out on such and such date. In 10 days, we're going to follow up with them. We're going to call them, or we're going to send them an email, and just make a log and track that. Because if you put the time and effort to send somebody a resume, they at least owe you a response. If you don't get that response, call them up. And what are they going to do? Tell you to stop calling? Okay, so what? Because you're going to have to play a little bit of hardball if you want to get in. And those are the people that are going to get noticed, are the ones, the squeaky wheel. The people who are bugging them. That's how I got one of my first jobs. I bugged a guy for 3 months. Finally, he just hired me. I worked there for 3 years, and they were very happy with me. But that's just one of the things you're going to have to do in these tougher times, because everybody wants a job. What makes you any different than anybody else? You want to stand out. You want to be different. Not in a weird way or anything, but just in a way that shows you're excited and you're passionate about what you do and what you have to offer, and that you can bring that talent to somebody. So, phase 4 of your campaign, provided you have done everything right up to this point, you're going to get a job interview. Now, like I said earlier, employers are looking for culture fit and personality first. There are some companies that you won't even get a regular interview before you get a culture fit interview, because they want to make sure that you're a right fit for them. Do you have the right style, the right personality, that you're going to fit in with everybody else there? You might have the skills and the talent and the experience, but if you don't fit in with how they do things there, you're not a good fit. And I always like to use the example of, the person who wants to work for IBM. a very, probably one of the most formal computer companies, they probably wouldn't do so well at Apple. Because Apple's just so laid back, and they wear T-shirts to work. IBM wears suits to work. So very different. So that's what employers are really looking for. Next part about your interview, before you have your interview, is visualize yourself in the role. See, don't just say, "Hey, I can do this job." Close your eyes, think about it, feel it, and see yourself doing that job. And just read this job description so you know exactly what they're looking for, and then see yourself doing it. Imagine it. And this is going to help you in the interview when they say, why should we hire you? And when you already see yourself in the role, it's going to be a lot easier to answer those questions. Now, we're all doing this. I mean, you spent a whole bunch of money going to school for 4 years. You didn't go there to work for free, to go out and get a job for free. So compensation, that's why that's a big driving reason. I mean, sure, personal satisfaction and fulfillment and growth, those are all great reasons too. But hey, we all need money to live. So compensation starts, the negotiation starts with your first interview. So one of the questions I always like to ask at a first interview, if they don't already tell me, if I don't already know, I like to ask them, has a salary range been determined for this position? Because I want to know. And if it hasn't, that's fine. But I want to know kind of what the job pays before I waste any more time in the interview process. Because I've been on some interviews before where I found out the job paid $30,000 less than I was willing to accept after 4 hours of interviewing. So it's a big waste of my time. So it's always a good thing to find out what the job pays before you start. And if you're not sure, there's a site called salary.com that you can go to that will give you some insight on what jobs pay, or for the type of work that you do in the geographical area that you're in. One thing that people don't really understand is that interviews are just 20% mechanics, meaning, just the answers, just the straight up skills and answers, 20%. 80% of it is the psychology and how you present yourself and your personality. That's the biggest thing. But there's so many people who think that they can just go in, and I know this because they come to me, they think they can just go in and just give the right answer. It's not a test anymore. You can't just look in the back of the book to pass your interview. It just doesn't work that way. They want to get to know you. They want to know why you want this job. Why do you like this? Why should we hire you? And that's where you need to do some convincing and show them why you're interested. Not that you just want a job, but why you want this job, why you like it, why it means something to you. And that's the whole 80% of it. And you could literally take two people, one who has the skills to do the job and one who doesn't have the skills, but the person who's mastered the psychology part is going to win every time. And that could be the person without the skills. It's just the way it works. So this brings me into body language, because you are going to be interviewing over this little teeny tiny camera, and it's really awkward if you're not used to interviewing that way. And I've really never had to interview for jobs over Skype or Zoom or anything like that. It's always been face to face. So an employer can see me, they can see my body language, they can hear me, they can see what I'm doing, they can really get a good sense of me. But the camera, they can't. They can only see you, sometimes just from your neck up. I mean, here, actually, we're not, you're not seeing me from much more than my neck up. So there's an old rule. It's actually true. It's scientifically proven. It's called the rule of 738-55. And what those numbers mean is that 7% of your spoken words convey your meaning. Just 7% of what is. So if they could just hear the words, that's the only communication that they're getting. But you can change that with your voice. So 38% of your communication is heard through your voice. So, I mean, if I were just talking like this and trying to teach you how to do this, I would be down there in just the 7%, because you're just hearing my words. And my words mean nothing. But my voice gives those words passion and feeling and excitement. And you pay attention more. It's kind of just the same thing in a movie. When the sound gets loud, it goes up, it goes down. Even, if you're talking really soft, you can still have a very soft voice and still be emphasizing that 38%. The 55%, the biggest part is the nonverbal. That's all your facial expressions. That's your hand movements. That's your eyes. That's you smiling. Everything. That's all your body language. So 55% of your communication is handled through body language. And that's what I mean when the first point I talked about was how COVID has stripped away all the authenticity in interviewing because they can only see you from the neck up. So it's a lot harder for you to communicate with somebody and really emphasize what you're capable of and why you're passionate. So that's why you really want to focus on that 38 and the 55. Get your voice out there. Get a strong voice. Get a soft voice, but get a voice that clearly communicates and expresses yourself and your passion for what you do, and show that as much as you can with your body language. You can, back your camera out farther so that they can see your hands when you're talking to them. Because, I like to talk with my hands all the time, and I think it really emphasizes what I'm trying to say. So remember that when you interview, that rule of 738-55, that will help you go so much farther in those Zoom interviews. So moving on here, you need to sell yourself in a job interview. The best way to do that is with these questions. These are your biggest opportunity questions, and you're probably going to get asked all three of these in one way, shape, or another. They're going to say, tell me about yourself. And you want to give them a little story about you. You're going to say, why do you want to work here? You're going to say, well, because I really like you guys. No, you want to get more. You want to get real. You want to tell them why you're passionate about why you want to work there. What specifically about it? And then they're going to say, why should we hire you? What's so special about you? So that takes me to storytelling, because these questions are going to sell you, but they're also going to distinguish you from everyone else. Now, these three questions are probably some of the most popular. I make videos on all three of these, and these are some of the most searched out questions that there are. Everybody wants to know how to answer, tell me about yourself. And there's a whole bunch of different ways to do it. I suggest telling you a unique story about yourself. How you got started, why you like doing what you do, why you're passionate about it, where you see yourself going. If you just give a cliched answer to tell me about yourself, you're going to sound like everybody else. And when you sound like everybody else, you blend in with everybody else. And at the end of the day, when the interviewer interviewed 20 people, you're just going to fade away in with the mix. So if you tell stories, special stories that spark some interest, have some drama in them, they're going to remember you. And that's what you want, because there's so many more people looking for jobs. Employers need to figure out who they want, and you want to stand out. It's more important now than ever to stand out. And why do you want to work here? I always get, joke answers for this question. Well, I need a job. You know what? They don't care. They don't care if you need a job. They don't care if you have 2 cents to your name. They want to know what you can do for them. And why do you want to do it for them? What makes you passionate about them? So that's where I would encourage you. I told you earlier, this ties back to digging into their employee culture, finding out what their culture is like, what their vision is, what their mission is, and tie that into your response. You may be trying to work for a place that has a life-saving mission of cleaning up planet Earth. And they might say, why do you want to work here? And you could say, well, you know what? I notice your mission statement is all about a greener Earth. I am very green myself, and I don't know if that sounds right, but something like that, I'm very environmentally conscious myself, and I know that you guys are. You're very socially responsible, and I want to be a part of that kind of company. That's why I want to work there. Doesn't have to have anything to do with the job. Just that you're aligning yourself with their culture. So how are we doing here on time? All right, we're doing all right. I'm going to try to wrap it up here pretty soon. And then, why should we hire you? That's one of the favorite questions that, why should they pick you? Be unique, special. What makes you stand out from everybody else? One of the hardest things to do is, or for an interviewer, is they want to get past your rehearsed responses, because interviewers know that people go out and they prepare for interviews, and people try to memorize their answers to questions. And when they get into an interview setting, things get really tense and they get asked these questions, and then their mind just freezes up because, well, they memorized their answers to them. They didn't really rehearse them or plan them out or anything, and then they kind of stumble around and just disaster. So what you want to do is practice your answers a variety of different ways. You should be able to say what you want to say to a question 3, 4, 5 different ways. It should come out sounding different every time. And one of my favorite ways to do this is just to get in front of a video camera and grab yourself a list of some common interview questions, and then just answer those questions in front of the camera as if there were an interviewer there, or print out a picture of a guy in a suit and just talk to that. And say those answers to that camera, and then go back and just watch yourself. See what you look like. What do you sound like? Do you sound like you're struggling, or do you sound fluid in your responses? And do they sound different every time? Because if you go into an interview with memorized answers, that's going to be a disaster. So interviews, they're always going to be stressful. You're meeting somebody new for the first time. It's a new experience. Pressure's on. You got to get the job. Best thing to do is to relax yourself before the interview. And you don't have to be into meditation or yoga or anything to be able to calm your mind down. There's a handful of really good videos on YouTube that could teach you to meditate, in 15 minutes. And I always suggest before the interview, like an hour before, just closing your eyes, practice some deep breathing, and visualize yourself in the role. Seeing yourself do the things that they're looking you to do. See yourself excelling. See yourself growing there. See yourself happy at the end of the day. Create that vision in your mind. That meditation works great. I always liked physical exercise. Before I ever went on an interview, I always worked out that morning. I'd go run 5 or 10 miles, and that would literally calm me down for the rest of the day. Another thing you can do is to calm your nerves before an interview is to have multiple interviews. So one thing that I like to do is, if I could, it wasn't always possible, but I would schedule one interview in the morning and another interview in the afternoon. And for the morning interview, I was more nervous for it, but I got all those jitters worked out in that first interview because it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And then in the afternoon, I was more like my natural self. So 2 interviews in one day helped. It's exhausting, but it helps. Another thing you can do is get any job interview you can, even ones that you don't care about, especially ones you don't care about, and just go let an interviewer interview you for real. And that will help you get some of the kinks out too, and just get you more comfortable in that type of interview setting. So video interviews, this is what you are going to be facing. You're going to get 2 types of, maybe 3 types of interviews. You might get some phone interviews. You might get higher view interviews where you're actually interviewing with a computer. So a computer just sits down and asks you some questions. I don't like those. I think it's very inhuman, impersonal, where you have a computer just asking you questions and you're just talking into it like it's a real person. But that's another one. And then you'll probably have some Zoom interviews where you sit down and you might meet with the director of human resources or a hiring manager. And remember the body language rule of 738-55 for all of those interviews to communicate beyond your words. Interviewers hire for personality. Make sure that you are putting on the best version of yourself, the real you, not the hidden you. So let your personality shine. And sometimes that's hard when you don't know somebody because you don't know what they're like, and it's hard to be yourself. And match and mirror. And what I mean by that is if your interviewer is maybe talking real slow, so Jonah, can you tell me more about yourself? Don't talk really fast to them because they're a slow talker, and if you're talking really fast to a slow talker, they're not you're putting yourself at odds with them, and you're kind of breaking the communication barrier. And vice versa too. If they're if they're a really fast talker and maybe you're a really slow talker, you might try to pick it up a little bit, because they'll be like, come on, get it out, say it already. So that's what I mean by matching and mirroring. Just their rate of speech, for one. There's all kinds of different things you can match and mirror, all kinds of body language you can do. So that's almost it. After all of that, after you go through all those phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, you get the interview, you do all that to get a second interview. And it's just rinse and repeat after that. You do it all again. Now, one thing that people don't understand, job seekers don't understand, is employers are asking themselves different questions about whether they should hire you. And these are the questions that they ask of themselves. They want to know, can this person do the job? Does it fit their nature to do the job? I mean, if this person is, a very happy, talkative, conversing person, it doesn't make sense to stick someone like that in the back room of accounting. We want to stick that person somewhere else. So we want to put them in a position that's going to suit their nature. Will they do the job? I mean, will they be here in 3 years, 5 years? I mean, does this job meet their own goals? I mean, if your goal is to, be a partner in the law firm in 5 years, and the interviewer knows that's not possible, then that puts you at odds already. So this is a question that they're going to ask themselves. It's like, well, if they want to be partner in 5 years, that's not possible. They're probably not going to last in this role. So they're going to skip you. Then are they the right fit? Do they fit the culture? Do they fit our culture? Are they going to fit in with everybody else? And then the last question they ask themselves is, as they get down to their final 2 or 3 candidates, which candidate is the least risky? Which candidate is most likely going to stay in this role for 2 or 3 years? So this is what's on their mind, and it may not be on your mind, but if you understand their angle, this may help you better sell yourself in the interview. So the last thing I have for you here is, that's all I have for you tonight, and we'll get into questions in just a second, but I have a nice little guide. It's called the Top 10 Interview Questions Guide, and it's got the top 10 questions in it, like tell me about yourself, why do you want to work here, what are your weaknesses? This is free for you. So if you go to jobinterviewtools.com/top10, put in your name and email address and tell me where to send this guide, I will send it right out to you. If you don't get it right away, look in your spam folder, it may be there. And that will give you some great insight into some of the common questions that you should have some answers for. So that is all I have for you tonight, and hopefully Jonah has gathered up some questions from you guys, and he'll feed those over to me now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, Don, thank you so much for the presentation. That was great. I feel like I learned a lot from it. We do have some questions that I'll feed over to you right now. We have a decent batch, and I'll start off with this one. Are there differences in soft skills that are expected through a video platform? For instance, if you were to go into an interview in person, and something that might be expected is, good eye contact, a firm handshake, just things that are indicators of a successful interviewee, does that change in a video format?
Well, I'll tell you. For one, you can't shake hands. Making eye contact is difficult because of everybody's position on their camera. So those two things are erased. They're just gone. Some of the things that you can do, some of the soft skills, would be your icebreaker questions, how's the weather, to ease into the interview. Those things haven't changed. And that's why I encourage people to really just play up the body language and the personality and let themselves resonate and shine maybe more than they would in an interview, so that they don't look like they're just sitting there on a frozen screen or something like that. Move around, show them that you're a real person, you're alive.
Another question that we got was, how do you make your resume strong if you don't have much previous experience or not many previous jobs? And with that being said, what do you highlight in an interview given that circumstance?
Well, you're not alone there. There's a lot of people who have a weak resume. So if you don't have the actual experience, or, I mean, maybe you have some experience, well, then you want to exaggerate that as much as you can. And when you run out of experience, tie that back to maybe projects that you worked on in college. I mean, hopefully, throughout your 4 years, maybe you were president of a club, maybe you were in some contests, maybe, whatever it is. But use as much of your college extracurricular activities as experience as you can. There's only so much you can do, only so far you can go. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that was great. I had a question that was a bit more specific, or actually a little bit more abstract. But from the things that you've talked about, would you gear anything that you went over differently in regards to international students? Not at all.
No,
Okay.
not at all. No, this stuff worldwide, absolutely.
All right.
And I can say that openly and honestly because I work with people from all over the world. I'm actually working with a woman right now who's in Hong Kong, and they do interviews the same way that we do them over here, and they actually do them in English, if you can believe that.
Oh, we got a question that I was actually also interested in. Can you talk a bit more about what or how much to put in the summary or objective portion on the top of a resume?
It should be one simple statement: seeking a position in finance. Seeking a position. You could also extend that a little bit. You could say seeking a position in finance in the medical field. I mean, maybe you want to be a finance manager in the medical field, or maybe you want to be an accountant in the medical field, or maybe you want to be an accountant in the automotive industry. You might say seeking an accounting position in the automotive industry, or seeking a programmer analyst position in, could be anything.
Okay, what are some key questions to ask during an informational interview to know if their job is a good fit for you?
Well, that's going to depend on you because, that's all relative. You might want to just start off with, how did you get started in this? Why do you like it? When did you start doing this job, right out of college? Or, how long did it take you to get here? And, what does your day look like? Do you do the same thing every day? Anything like that. And once you start with one or two questions, that's just going to create an avalanche for more, because they're gonna start asking you, they're gonna start giving you information back, and then they might even ask you, what do you think about that? What do you like about this? Why are you doing what you want to do? And it'll be a little bit of a give and take and going back and forth. But those are some of the questions that I would start with, and I think that would really open up, and get any informational interviewer moving.
Yeah, no, that was a great answer. And let's wrap it up with our last question. Is there a limit to how many times one should apply to a company before giving up? Is there any sort of blacklist, or on the other hand, is it admirable to see a repeated candidate?
I don't know about a blacklist. If there is, you're not going to know about it. And you'd probably have to be somewhat of an ass to get on it and just have really bugged them to the point of no return. But as far as the number of times to apply to a job, well, I'll tell you, when I graduated college, I applied to IBM over 100 times. I had 100 rejection letters from them. 100. I didn't quit until after 100. I'm like, screw it. I'm not gonna I'm done with these guys. After 100, that's my number. So literally, I had 100 rejection letters. That's when they actually sent out letters. But no, you can apply to a position as many times as you want. But what I would suggest, instead of repeatedly applying, because you may apply to a position and then you never hear anything and you don't know what to do. Should I apply to it again? No, you should. What you should do is call them up. If you don't hear anything in a few weeks, you should call them up and find out what's going on. Now, another thing that happens is employer puts up a position and you apply to it, and then the position comes down. And then a month later, it's back up again. That happens. Then it's okay to apply to that position, but it's still better to call them up and say, hey, I noticed you had that position up last month. You took it down and now it's back up again. Did something happen? Did you hire somebody into that position? Did it not work out? Did you change your mind? Because I'm really interested in it. So yes, you can, but it's not a strategy. There's no strategy in continually applying for a position. You're better off making contact with the person behind it. You want to talk to a real person about it so that you can convey your intentions and your interests and your passion in what they're doing, instead of letting them know that, instead of hitting the submit button. It's just a lot more personal.
Yeah, that was a great answer. And with that, that's the end of the questions. But I want to, before we quickly wrap it up, I want to say, where can everybody find you? An email, social media, and of course your YouTube, just something that I can put into the chat.
They can find me at YouTube/DGeorgievich, or you can find me at jobinterviewtools.com. And if any of you guys sign up for the, let me close this out here. If any of you guys sign up here at jobinterviewtools.com/top10, that will put you on my email list.
All right, then with that, thank you so much for a really great interview workshop, Don. We really appreciate it here at UES. I'm sure everybody, took something very important from what you were talking about. And I also want to thank everybody for showing up, for coming through. I think that you're going to benefit from what we had going on here today. And with that, I really appreciate it.
All right, that wraps up Navigating COVID-19, a blueprint for success. I hope you got a lot of value out of this program. If you would like me to come out to your college and do something similar or create a completely different workshop, reach out to your career services department and say, hey, I saw Don on YouTube. He did this awesome program for the University of California. I want him to come over here and do it for us too. So reach out to career services, have them call me at 440-655-1725. That is my cell phone. And my email address is don@jobinterviewtools.com. So there you go. If you want to see me, reach out to your career services department, or just send them this video and say, hey, look at what he did for University of California. Let's bring him out here too. I hope you learned a lot. Hope you took lots of notes, and I hope it just fired you up to get you ready to go out and hit that job market with just that confidence that you feel in yourself that you have something to offer, that you can make a difference, that you can go into an employer and show them that you can help them solve a problem, launch a product, or write a program, whatever it is, whatever you do. I hope this workshop has empowered you to take the next step. And as a free gift for you, I want to give you the top 10 interview questions. You can head on over to jobinterviewtools.com/top10, put in your name and email address, tell me where to send this guide, and I will send it out to you. This is a 20 or 30 page guide that has some of the most common interview questions in it. It has the top 10 most common interview questions because it says top 10. And these are going to teach you things like, how to answer, why do you want to work here? Tell me about yourself. What are some of your greatest strengths? It's going to get you started. It's going to get your feet wet. It's going to get you ready for what you are going to be facing on your next job interview. So that is all I have for you today. I wish you the very best of luck in your job interview, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.